The alarm bells rang through the Earth Defense Force station like thunder. Commander Jake Morrison rushed to his control room, his coffee still steaming in his hand. The red lights flashed on every screen, and his crew looked worried. Something big was happening. What do we have? Jake asked his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Carter. Sir, we're getting a distress signal from the outer rim. It's weak, but it's coming from multiple sources, Amy said, her fingers dancing over the control panel. Jake set down his coffee and looked at the main screen. The signal was broken, cutting in and out like a radio in a storm, but the words that came through made his blood run cold. Help us, Dalian's dead. War without end, please, The message repeated over and over, getting weaker each time. Jake had heard rumors about the war between the Zephyrian Empire and the Corvan Federation, but Earth had stayed out of it. The human colonies were small and far from the fighting. Most people thought it was just another alien conflict that would burn itself out. But this sounded different. This sounded desperate. Get me Captain Lisa Reynolds, Jake ordered. Tell her we need to talk right now. Within minutes, Captain Reynolds appeared on the screen from her ship, the USS Liberty. Her face was serious, and Jake could see the worry in her eyes. Jake, we're getting the same signals here, she said, before he could speak. How long has this been going on? The signal started 3 hours ago, but the war has been going for 30 years, Jake replied. Lisa, I think we need to pay attention. To this, Reynolds nodded. I'm sending you our intel reports. What we're seeing is not good. The files appeared on Jake's screen, and he started reading. The numbers were hard to believe. Entire star systems had been destroyed. Billions of people were dead. Whole planets had been turned into glass by weapons that could melt rock from space. The Zephyrian Empire was known for their honor and their powerful plasma weapons. They could turn a planet's surface into molten metal in just a few hours. Their ships were huge and built for war, with armor that could stop almost anything. The Corvan Federation was different. They were cold and logical, using math and science to plan their attacks. Their quantum weapons could tear apart atoms themselves, making things simply disappear. They fought with precision and never showed mercy. For 30 years, these two powers had been locked in battle. Neither side could win, but neither side would give up. They had forgotten what they were fighting for in the first place. All they knew was war. Sir, Amy called out, we're getting more signals. These are from our own scout ships near the border. Jake turned to listen. The voice was Captain Steve Johnson from the scout ship Explorer. Morrison, you need to see this. Johnson's voice crackled through the speakers. I'm sending you video from the Kepler system. What's left of it? The screen filled with images that made Jake's stomach turn. Where there should have been planets, there were only pieces of rock floating in space. The star itself looked damaged, flickering like a dying light bulb. Ships from both sides drifted dead in space, their crews long gone. This used to be home to 12 billion Corvans, Johnson continued. The Zephyrians hit it with their new planet-killer weapons 2 weeks ago. But the Corvans got their revenge. They wiped out the entire Zephyrian Third Fleet with their quantum bombs. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. This was not just war. This was madness. Sir, Amy said quietly, there's more. Intelligence says both sides are running out of resources. They're using planet killers like regular weapons now. Soon, they'll start looking for new resources. And we're right in their path? Jake finished for her. Captain Reynolds spoke up from the screen. Jake, I just got word from Admiral Henry Clark. He wants to see all senior officers at Earth Command in 6 hours. I think the decision-makers are finally paying attention, Jake nodded. Any idea what they're thinking? Word is that the Admiral wants to do something. The question is what? We can't fight either of these empires in a straight battle. Their weapons are too advanced and we're too small. But we can't just sit here and wait for them to destroy each other and then come for U.S.? Jake said. Lieutenant Amy Carter cleared her throat. Sir, there's something else. The intelligence reports show something interesting. Both sides are asking for help. The Zephyrians sent messages to 17 different species asking for military aid. The Corvan sent requests to 23 species asking for resources and technology. Did anyone answer? Jake asked. No, sir. Everyone is too scared to get involved. They've seen what happens to worlds that pick sides in this war. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. It looked so peaceful from here. Hard to believe that not far away, entire civilizations were destroying themselves. What do you think, Amy? He asked. Should we get involved? The young officer thought for a moment. Sir, my grandfather always said that sometimes you have to step into a fight to stop it. Maybe that's what we need to do here. Jake smiled. Your grandfather sounds like a wise man. He was, sir. He helped end the water wars in Africa back in 2089, said the hardest part was getting people to stop fighting long enough to listen. That gave Jake an idea. Amy, pull up everything we have on human conflict resolution. Every peace treaty, every ceasefire, every time humans stopped fighting and started talking. Sir, I want to know how we do it, how humans end wars. Maybe we can teach these aliens something they've forgotten. Amy's fingers flew over her controls. Sir, there are thousands of examples. The Treaty of Versailles, the Camp David Accords, the Mars Colony Agreement, the Luna Peace Talks. What do they all have in common? Jake asked. Amy read through the files quickly. They all required a neutral third party. Someone who wasn't involved in the fighting to help both sides find a way out. Jake turned back to the screen where Captain Reynolds was waiting. Lisa, what if we don't pick sides? What? If we offer to help both sides find a way to end this war? Reynolds raised an eyebrow. That's either the smartest thing I've heard all day or the most dangerous. Maybe both, Jake admitted. But Amy's right. Someone has to step in and stop this fight. And we might be the only ones crazy enough to try. The distress signals continued to come in as they talked. More systems destroyed. More lives lost. The war was spreading, getting closer to human space with each passing day. Sir, Amy said, I'm getting a priority message from Admiral Clark. He wants to speak with you immediately. Jake straightened his uniform. Put him through. The stern face of Admiral Henry Clark appeared on the screen. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days. Morrison, I need you to prepare a full report on the alien war, every detail you have. I'm calling an emergency session of the Earth Defense Council. Sir, are we going to intervene? Clark was quiet for a long moment. Son, we've been watching. This war tore the galaxy apart for 30 years. We've seen species with technology we can only dream of destroy themselves with weapons that could crack moons. The question isn't whether we should get involved. The question is whether we can afford not to. What do you need from us, sir? Get me options, Morrison. Ways we can help end this war without getting ourselves killed in the process. Because if we don't do something soon, there won't be a galaxy left to save. The screen went dark and Jake was left alone with his thoughts. Outside, Earth continued its quiet orbit around the sun, unaware that its children were about to make a decision. That would change everything. The war had been going on for 30 years. Soon, it might be over. One way or another. The USS Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of blue light. Captain Alex Turner gripped his command chair as the ship shook from the sudden stop. Around him, his crew worked quickly to get their systems online. They had just entered the most dangerous place in the galaxy. Status report, Turner called out. We're in the Meridian system, sir, reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell from her communications station. Sensors are picking up massive debris fields. There are pieces of destroyed ships everywhere. Turner looked at the main screen. What he saw made his heart sink. The space around them looked like a junkyard. Broken pieces of metal floated in all directions. Some chunks were as big as buildings. Others were so small they looked like dust. Clouds? How many ships died here? Turner asked quietly. Sensors show remains from at least 300 vessels, sir, answered Lieutenant Bobby Chun from the science station. Both Zephyrian and Corvan designs. Some of these wrecks are years old. The Meridian system had been beautiful once. 4 planets orbited a yellow star much like Earth's sun. The 4th planet, Meridian Prime, had been home to a peaceful trading. colony. Now it was a battlefield. Sir, we're getting movement, Sarah called out. Two large fleets are approaching from opposite directions. Turner nodded. This was what they had expected. The Zephyrians and Corvens were still fighting here, still trying to claim the system for themselves. They had been bombing each other for so long that they had forgotten what they were fighting for. Open a channel on all frequencies, Turner ordered. It's time to announce ourselves. Sarah's hands moved over her controls. Channel open, sir. Turner stood up and straightened his uniform. This was the moment that would either save lives or get them all killed. This is Captain Alex Turner of the United Earthship Endeavor. We are here on a mission of peace. We request an immediate ceasefire and offer to mediate talks between the Zephyrian Empire and the Corvan Federation. The response came faster than expected. A bright green beam of plasma energy shot past their ship, close enough to make their shields glow. Then a blue quantum torpedo exploded nearby, rocking the Endeavor. Evasive maneuvers, Turner shouted. But keep transmitting our message. The ship twisted and turned as more weapons fire filled the space around them. The Zephyrians thought the humans were helping the Corvens. The Corvens thought the humans were helping the Zephyrians. Both sides were trying to destroy them. Shields at 60%, called out Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez. We can't take much more of this. Sir, both fleets are closing in, Sarah reported. They're treating us as hostile. Turner gritted his teeth. Keep broadcasting. Tell them we're not armed for war. Tell them we just want to talk. For 4 hours, the Endeavor danced between the two fleets. Turner's pilot, Lieutenant Maria Santos, was the best in the Earth Defense Force. She spun the ship through the debris field. Using the wreckage as cover, plasma beams and quantum torpedoes flew past them like deadly fireworks. Captain, Sarah said, I'm getting something. The Zephyrian fleet is slowing down. Turner looked at the screen. The massive alien warships were indeed reducing speed. Their weapons were still charged, but they had stopped firing. The Corvens are also changing course, reported Bobby Chun. They're moving to a safer distance. Why? Turner asked. What changed? Dr. Amanda Foster, the ship's expert on alien behavior, spoke up from her station. Sir, I think they're curious. Neither side has seen a human ship before. We're something new in a war that's been going on for 30 years. Turner nodded. Sarah, are we getting any communications from either fleet? Yes, sir. The Zephyrian war leader is requesting to speak with you, so is the Corvan fleet commander. Put them both on screen. Let's see if we can get them talking. The main screen split in two. On the left appeared a tall reptilian creature with golden scales and red eyes. This was war leader Gaxton of the Zephyrian Empire. On the right was a pale, thin being with large black eyes and silver skin. This was Fleet Commander Zexhai. Of the Corvan Federation, both aliens spoke at the same time. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately, Gaxton growled. Unknown ship, you will submit to scanning, Zexhai said in a cold voice. Turner held up his hands. Please, both of you, listen to me. We're not here to fight. We're here to help you end this war. Gaxton's eyes flashed with anger. You dare speak of ending our holy war? This conflict is a matter of honor. The human speaks of impossibilities, Zexhai replied. Mathematical models show this war will continue for 47.3 more years. That's exactly why we're here, Turner said. You've, been fighting so long that you've forgotten there might be another way? There is no other way, Gaxton roared. The Corvans attacked our colonies. Honor demands revenge. The Zephyrians violated our trade agreements, Zexhai stated. Logic demands punishment. Turner looked at Dr. Foster, who nodded. She had been studying these species for years. She knew how to speak to them. War leader Gaxton, Turner said, is there honor in endless death? Is there honor in destroying worlds that cannot defend themselves? The Zephyrian leader paused. Honor was everything to his people, but Turner was right. There was no honor in what the war had become. Fleet Commander Zexhai, Turner continued, is it logical to continue a war that is destroying both your civilizations? Your own computers must show that you're both losing. The Corvan commander's large eyes blinked slowly. The human raises. Valid points, our economic projections do show ... Concerning trends, then let's talk, Turner said. Not as enemies, but as intelligent beings trying to solve a problem. Talk? Gaxton laughed, but it was a bitter sound. We have been fighting for 3 decades. Our people know only war. That's not true, Dr. Foster said, stepping forward. We've studied your histories. Both your species once knew peace. The Zephyrians were explorers and traders. The Corvans were scientists and builders. That was long ago, Zexhai said. Those times are past, are they? Turner asked. Or have you just forgotten how to be anything other than warriors? The 2 alien commanders looked at each other across the screen. For a moment, something passed between them. Not friendship, but recognition. They were both tired. They were both sick of the endless killing. What do you propose, human? Gaxton asked. A meeting, Turner said. Neutral ground, no weapons. Just talking. Impossible, Zexhai said. There is no neutral ground in this system. Then we'll make some, Turner replied. We'll build a station, right here, in the space between your fleets. A place where we can meet as equals. You would do this? Gaxton asked. Build a station in the middle of a war zone? If it means ending this war, yes, Turner said. We'll call it Unity Station. A place where enemies can become something else. The 2 alien leaders were quiet for a long moment. Around them, their fleets waited. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all holding their breath. I will consider this, Gaxton said finally. As will I, Zexhai agreed. But we make. No promises, human? That's all we ask, Turner said. Just a chance to try? The screens went dark. Around the Endeavor, the 2 massive fleets held their positions. The shooting had stopped, but the war was far from over. Sir, Sarah said, we're getting construction ships from both fleets. They're offering to help build the station, Turner smiled. Well, that's a start, Dr. Foster walked over to him. Captain, you do realize what you've just done. You've gotten 2 species who have been trying to kill each other for 30 years to agree to build something together. One step at a time, Doctor, Turner said. One step at a time. Outside, human construction ships were already on their way. Unity Station would be built in the space between enemies. It would be small and simple, but it would be a start. A place where the impossible might just become possible. The war wasn't over, but for the first time in 30 years, it had paused. And sometimes a pause is all you need to remember that there might be a better way. Unity Station was small and simple, but it was a miracle. In just 3 days, human engineers had built a meeting place in the middle of a war zone. The station floated in space between the 2 alien fleets like a metal island of hope. Commander. Rachel Davis looked out the window of the main conference room. She could see the massive Zephyrian warships on one side and the sleek Corvan vessels on the other. Both fleets had their weapons powered down, but she knew that could change in seconds. Are you ready for this? Asked General Marcus Wright, adjusting his uniform. The old soldier had seen more battles than most people had seen birthdays. His gray hair and scarred hands told stories of Earth's own wars. As ready as anyone can be, Rachel replied. We're about to try something that's never been done before. The doors to the conference room opened and the alien delegates entered. War leader Gaxton came first, his golden scales catching the light. He was followed by 3 other Zephyrian officers, all looking uncomfortable in the peaceful setting, fleet. Commander Zexhai entered from the opposite door with his advisors. The Corvan leader moved with precise, calculated steps. His large black eyes studied everything in the room like a computer analyzing data. Please sit, Rachel said, gesturing to the circular table. We've arranged the seating so that everyone is equal here. The aliens sat down slowly, keeping as much distance from each other as possible. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. This is foolish, Gaxton muttered. We should be fighting, not talking. Statistically, these negotiations have a 12.7% chance of success, Zexhai added. We are wasting time, Rachel smiled. Well, those odds are better than the current situation. Your war has a 0% chance of anyone winning. General Wright leaned forward. I've been studying your conflict for months. Both of your civilizations are destroying themselves. Your own military reports show you're running out of resources. The Zephyrians have honor, Gaxton said firmly. We will fight until the last warrior falls. The Corvans have logic, Zexhai replied. We will continue until mathematical victory is achieved. And how's that working out for you? Wright asked. 30 years of war, and what do you have to show for it? The question hung in the air like smoke. Both alien leaders looked uncomfortable. Dr. Kevin Holmes, who had been quiet until now, opened his data tablet. I've been running calculations on your economies. War leader Gaxton, your empire is spending 87% of its total resources on military production. Fleet Commander Zexhai, you're spending 91%. War requires sacrifice, Gaxton said. This level of military spending is unsustainable, Holmes continued. Within 5 years, both of your civilizations will collapse economically. Your people will starve while your armies have the finest weapons in the galaxy. Zexhai's eyes widened slightly. Show me these calculations. Holmes activated a holographic display. Numbers and charts filled the air above the table. The data was clear and undeniable. Both empires were bleeding themselves dry. This cannot be accurate, Gaxton said, but his voice was less certain than before. The mathematics are sound, Zexhai said quietly. Our own economists have reached similar conclusions. Then why are you still fighting? Rachel asked. The room fell silent. The question was simple, but the answer was complex. Both sides had been at war for so long that they had forgotten any other way to live. Double quotes, because double quotes. Gaxton started, then stopped. Because we have always fought? Because the war must continue until victory, Zexhai said, but his voice was flat and mechanical. General Wright stood up and walked to the window. You know, Earth had wars too. Terrible ones. We fought with nuclear weapons that could turn cities into ash. We fought with biological weapons that could kill entire populations. What ended your wars? Asked one of the Zephyrian officers. We got tired, Wright said simply. We got tired of burying our children. We got tired of living in fear. We got tired of spending all our time and money on ways to kill each other. But how did you stop? Gaxton asked. How does a warrior put down his sword? Wright turned back to the table. You find something better to fight for. Instead of fighting each other, you fight hunger. You fight disease, you fight ignorance. You fight the problems that make life hard for everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Anderson, who had been studying star charts during the discussion, suddenly looked up. What if you didn't have to fight each other at all? What if there was enough for everyone? She activated her own holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, showing thousands of star systems. Look at this, Beth said, pointing to a section of the map. The outer spiral. Millions of star systems that nobody has explored. Thousands of planets that could support life. Resources. That could keep both your civilizations running for thousands of years. Those systems are too far away, Zexhai said. The journey would take decades. Not if you work together, Beth replied. Zephyrian ships are strong and can carry heavy loads. Corvan ships are fast and efficient. Together you could reach those systems in years, not decades. Captain Robert Young, who had been leading exploration missions for 15 years, nodded. Enthusiastically, she's right. We've been mapping that region for months. There are worlds there that are perfect for colonization, paradise planets with no intelligent life to displace. You would share this information with us? Gaxton asked, suspicion in his voice. Freely, Robert said. Humans believe that space is big enough for everyone. There's no need to fight over what already exists when you can create something new. But the Corvans are our enemies, one of the Zephyrian officers protested. Are they? Rachel asked. Or are they just people who want the same things you do? Safety for their families, resources for their civilization, a future for their children. Zexhai looked at his advisors, then back at the humans. What exactly are you proposing? A joint colonization project, Beth said. Both of your civilizations working together to settle the outer spiral. Sharing the costs, sharing the risks, sharing the rewards, impossible, Gaxton said. Zephyrians do not work with Covens. Why not? General Wright asked. Because you've been fighting for 30 years? Because some trade dispute got out of hand 3 decades ago? It was more than a trade dispute, HFY said coldly. They violated our agreements. And you attacked our colonies, Gaxton growled. Stop, Rachel said firmly. Both of you. Stop. Do you even remember what started this war? The 2 alien leaders looked at each other, then looked away. The truth was, after 30 years of fighting, the original cause had been lost in the blood and hatred. I remember, said an elderly Zephyrian advisor. It was a mining dispute. The Corvins wanted to extract rare metals from an asteroid belt. We claimed it was in our territory. The asteroid belt contained 4.7 million tons of rare earth elements, added a Corvin scientist, essential for our computer systems. 1 asteroid belt, Rachel said. You've been fighting for 30 years over 1 asteroid belt. It became more than that, Gaxton said weakly. Yes, it did, Wright agreed. It became a war that has killed billions of people and destroyed hundreds of worlds. All over some rocks in space, the room was quiet again. The weight of what they had learned pressed down on everyone. The outer spiral has thousands of asteroid belts, Robert said gently, rich in every mineral you could need. Enough rare earth elements to supply both civilizations for millennia. Working together, you could have everything you need, Beth added. Separate, you'll both die slowly while fighting over scraps. Zexhai looked at the star charts, his computer-like mind calculating possibilities. The resource yield would be significant. The glory of such an undertaking would be remembered forever, Gaxton said thoughtfully. To be the first to colonize new worlds, to build new civilizations from nothing. Together, Rachel emphasized. Not as enemies, but as partners. The alien leaders looked at each other across the table. For the first time in 30 years, they weren't seeing enemies, they were seeing potential allies. This would require extensive planning, Zexhai said. And careful coordination, Gaxton added. We can help with that, Rachel said. Humans are good at bringing people together. Outside the window, the 2 fleets continued their silent vigil. But inside Unity Station, something was changing. The impossible was becoming possible, 1 conversation at a time. The negotiations had been going on for 2 days when Admiral Susan Green got the message that changed everything. She was in her command center aboard the USS Freedom when Lieutenant Paul Stevens rushed in with a datapad in his hands. Admiral, you need to see this right away, Paul said, his face pale with worry. Susan took the datapad and read the report. Her eyes grew wide as she understood what she was looking at. Are you sure about this? Yes, ma'am. Our long-range scouts confirmed it 3 times. There's a 3rd fleet out there, a big one. Susan looked at the tactical display. Hidden behind a large asteroid field, there were ships, lots of ships. They weren't Zephyrian and they weren't Corvan. They were something else entirely. Who are they? Susan asked. The Nethys Collective, ma'am. We've heard rumors about them, but this is the first time we've seen them up close. Susan knew the name. The Nethys were a mysterious species that lived far from known space. They rarely made contact with other civilizations. Most people thought they were just stories told by long-distance traders. How many ships? Susan asked. Paul checked his datapad. At least 500, ma'am, maybe more. They're using some kind of stealth technology that makes it hard to get exact numbers. What are they doing here? According to our intelligence, they've been watching the war, waiting. Susan felt a chill run down her spine. Waiting for what? For both sides to weaken themselves. Then they move in and take everything. Susan looked at the data again. The Nethys ships were massive, bigger than anything the Zephyrians or Corvins had built. Their technology looked advanced, possibly more advanced than either empire possessed. Get me Colonel Danny Cooper, Susan ordered. I need our best intelligence officer to look at this. Within minutes, Colonel Cooper appeared on the Communication screen. His weathered face looked serious as he reviewed the data Susan had sent him. "This explains a lot," Danny said. "We've been wondering why some systems went dark during the war. We thought both sides were just fighting so hard that they destroyed everything. But look at this." Danny shared his screen with Susan. A map of the galaxy appeared, showing the progress of the war over 30 years. Red dots marked systems that had gone silent. "The Nethys have been taking advantage of the chaos," Danny continued. "While the Zephyrians and Corvans were busy fighting each other, the Nethys were quietly moving into abandoned systems." "How many systems?" Susan asked. 47 so far. "All rich in resources, all strategically important. The Nethys have been playing a very long game." Susan studied the map. The pattern was clear now. The Nethys had been using the war as cover for their own expansion. They had been waiting for both empires to exhaust themselves, then planned to sweep in and claim everything. "What's their technology?" "Like?" Susan asked. "Better than anything we've seen," Danny replied. "Their ships use some kind of energy shielding that makes them nearly invisible. Their weapons can punch through both Zephyrian armor and Corvan shields like they're made of paper." "How do you know all this?" "One of our deep space scouts got too close to a Nethys patrol. They destroyed the ship, but not before our pilot sent back some sensor data. The Nethys ship took out a fully armed Earth destroyer with a single shot." Susan felt her blood run cold. If the Nethys were that powerful, then both the Zephyrians and Corvans were in serious trouble, and so was humanity. "Colonel, I need you to get this information to Unity Station immediately." The peace talks just became a lot more important. At Unity Station, the mood in the conference room had been getting better. War Leader Gaxton and Fleet Commander Zexhai were actually talking to each other instead of just arguing. They had been discussing the joint colonization project when Captain Turner received the urgent message from Admiral Green. Turner read the report quickly, then looked up at the alien delegates. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've just received some very important intelligence. There's a third party involved in this situation." "What do you mean?" Gaxton asked. Turner activated the holographic display and showed them the data about the Nethys fleet. The room fell silent as both alien leaders realized what they were looking at. "Impossible," Zexhai said. "Our sensors would have detected such a large fleet." "Not if they have stealth technology better than yours," Turner replied. "And according to our analysis, they do." Dr. Patricia Scott, a human military strategist, stepped forward. "We believe the Nethys have been using your war as a distraction. While you've been fighting each other, they've been expanding their territory. How long have they been watching us?" Gaxton asked, his voice full of anger. "Probably since the war began," Patricia replied. "They've been patient, waiting for you to weaken each other enough that they could move in safely." One of the Corvan advisors spoke up. "Our economic models show that both our civilizations will be vulnerable within 5 years. If this Nethys force moves, then ... You'll both be destroyed," Turner finished. "They'll have fresh ships and full resources while you'll be exhausted from 30 years of war." The weight of this new threat settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Both alien delegations looked shocked and worried. "What do we do?" asked a Zephyrian officer. "You work together," Turner said simply. "The enemy of your enemy is your friend." "But we have been enemies for 30 years, Gaxton protested. "How can we suddenly become allies?" "Because you have to," Patricia said bluntly. "Look at the numbers. Either of your fleets alone would be destroyed by the Nethys, but together, you might have a chance." Fleet Commander Zexhai was running calculations in his head. The combined firepower of both fleets would be ... significant, but coordination between our forces would be extremely difficult. "That's where we come in," Turner said. "Humans are good at coordination. We can help you work together." "You would do this?" Gaxton asked. "Help us fight this new enemy?" "Of course," Turner replied. "The Nethys threat doesn't just affect you. If they defeat both your empires, Earth will be next." Dr. Scott activated another display showing tactical projections. "We've been working," On a plan, it's risky, but it could work. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Zephyrians would launch what appeared to be a final, desperate attack on the Corvan homeworld. The Nethys, thinking this was their chance to finish off the survivors, would move their fleet out of hiding to intercept. Then what? Zexhai asked. Then you spring the trap, Patricia said. The Corvan fleet joins the fight, but instead of fighting the Zephyrians, both fleets turn their weapons on the Nethys. A false battle? Gaxton said thoughtfully. There is honor in such a strategy if it serves to protect our people. The mathematical probability of success would be much higher than our current situation, Zexhai agreed. But it requires perfect timing, Patricia warned. And complete trust between your forces. One mistake and the Nethys will realize it's a trap. The room was quiet as both alien leaders considered the plan. They would have to trust each other completely. After 30 years of war, that seemed almost impossible. There's something else, Turner said. Our intelligence suggests the Nethys are planning to move soon, maybe within days? We don't have time for long discussions. How soon? Gaxton asked. Our scouts detected increased activity in their fleet. They're positioning for an attack. Zexhai looked at his advisors then. At the Zephyrian delegation? This changes everything. All our previous calculations are meaningless if we face extinction. The honor of our people is worth more than any old grudge, Gaxton said slowly. If we must work with former enemies to survive, then that is what we will do. The two alien leaders looked at each other across the table. Slowly, Gaxton extended his clawed hand. Even more slowly, Zexhai reached out with his pale, thin fingers. They shook hands for the first time in 30 years. When do we begin? Gaxton asked. Turner smiled. How about right now? We have a war to end and a galaxy to save. Outside Unity Station, the two fleets began to prepare for the most important battle of their lives. Not against each other, but together against a common enemy. The war that had lasted 30 years was about to end, but first, they had to win one more fight. At exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, Galactic Standard Time, the biggest lie in the galaxy began. Admiral Tony Mitchell watched from his command ship as the Zephyrian war fleet moved toward the Corvan homeworld. To anyone watching, it looked like the final battle of a 30-year war. All stations report ready, called out Lieutenant Jane Parker from her communications post. The Zephyrian fleet is moving into position. Tony nodded. Everything had to look real. The Nethys had been watching this war for decades. They knew how both sides fought. If anything looked fake, the trap would fail. Sir, we're getting signals from the Nethys fleet, reported Chief Petty Officer Mike Thompson. They're moving out of the asteroid field, Tony smiled grimly. The bait was working. The Nethys thought they were about to watch the final destruction of two great civilizations. Instead, they were flying into the biggest trap in galactic history. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, war leader Gaxton gave orders to his fleet. It felt strange to attack the Corvan homeworld without really meaning it. For 30 years he had dreamed of this moment. Now he was doing it to save his former enemies. Fire the plasma cannons, Gaxton ordered. But aim for the outer moons, not the planet. Bright green beams of energy shot through space, hitting empty moons and asteroid bases. To the Nethys watching from a distance, it looked like a real attack, but no one was actually getting hurt. Sir, the Corvan fleet is responding, reported his tactical officer. They're moving to intercept us. Gaxton watched the Corvan ships approach. Fleet Commander Zexhai was playing his part perfectly. The Corvan vessels moved in defensive formations, their blue shields glowing as they prepared for battle. Meanwhile, Admiral Tony Mitchell coordinated everything from his human command ship. His crew monitored both alien fleets and the approaching Nethys forces. Status on the Nethys fleet? Tony asked. They're taking the bait, sir, reported Lieutenant Parker. 500 ships moving at maximum speed toward the battle zone. Time until they arrive? 1 hour, 15 minutes, sir. Tony opened a secure channel to both alien fleets. Gaxton, Zexhai, you're doing great. The Nethys are coming fast. Get ready for Phase 2? On the Corvin flagship, Fleet Commander HFY was running final calculations. Everything had to be timed perfectly. Too early, and the Nethies would escape. Too late, and they might realize it was a trap. All ships, prepare for combat maneuvers, HFY announced to his fleet. Remember, we are not fighting our former enemies today. We are fighting for survival. The Corvan ships moved into position around their homeworld. Blue quantum torpedoes shot through space, carefully aimed to miss the Zephyrian vessels by safe distances. Explosions lit up the darkness as the fake battle continued. Captain Eric Hayes commanded the human vessel Freedom, positioned at the edge of the battle zone. His job was to watch the Nethies' fleet and give the signal when the trap should be sprung. "Sir, the Nethies' ships are getting closer," reported his sensor officer. "They're moving fast. Whatever technology they're using, it's impressive." Eric studied the approaching fleet through his ship's cameras. The Nethies' vessels were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were smooth and black, shaped like teardrops. They moved through space without any visible engines, as if they were swimming through water instead of flying through vacuum. "How much longer?" Eric asked. 30 minutes until they reach weapons range of the alien fleets." Eric opened his communication channel to Admiral Mitchell. "Tony, the Nethies' fleet looks more dangerous up close. Their ships are bigger than we thought." "How much bigger?" Tony asked. "Their smallest ships are the size of our largest battleships. Their biggest ones are... Well, I've never seen anything that big." Tony felt a chill of worry. The plan depended on the combined Zephyrian and Corvan fleets being strong enough to defeat the Nethies. If the enemy was stronger than expected, this could go very wrong. "We stick to the plan," Tony decided. "It's our only chance." The fake battle between the Zephyrians and Corvans continued. Both sides were careful to make it look real without actually hurting each other. Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes filled the space around the Corvan homeworld with light and explosions. War leader Gaxton found himself impressed by how well the Corvans were fighting, even in a pretend battle. Their ships moved with precision and grace. After 30 years of war, he had forgotten that they could be beautiful as well as deadly. Fleet Commander HFY was equally impressed by the Zephyrian tactics. Their ships were strong and powerful, built for honor and glory. He began to understand why the war had lasted so long. Both sides were truly skilled at combat. "Sir, the Nethies' fleet has arrived," Lieutenant Parker announced. "They're positioning themselves to attack the survivors of the battle." Admiral Mitchell looked at his tactical display. The Nethies' ships had formed a perfect attack formation. They were waiting for the right moment to strike, when both alien fleets would be weakened and unable to fight back effectively. "All units, prepare for Phase 3, Tony announced. "This is it." At exactly 11 o'clock, the trap was sprung. The Zephyrian and Corvan fleets, which had been pretending to fight each other, suddenly turned all their weapons toward the Nethies' force. The surprise was complete. The Nethies had expected to find two exhausted fleets barely able to fight. Instead, they found themselves facing two fully armed and coordinated forces working together for the first time in 30 years. "Fire all weapons!" Gaxton roared into his communicator. "Attack pattern Omega." HFY ordered his fleet. Green plasma beams and blue quantum torpedoes filled space as hundreds of ships opened fire on the Nethies' fleet. The black teardrop-shaped vessels found themselves caught in a crossfire they had never expected, but the Nethies were not helpless. Their ships were indeed more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. Strange silver beams shot from their vessels, cutting through both Zephyrian armor and Corvan shields like they were made of paper. "They're fighting back hard," Captain Hayes reported from the Freedom. "Their weapons are incredibly powerful." "Can our allies handle it?" Admiral Mitchell asked. "It's close, sir." "Very close." The battle raged for 2 hours. The Nethies' ships were individually more powerful, but they were outnumbered and surprised. The combined Zephyrian and Corvan fleets worked together like they had been allies for years. Instead of enemies, war leader Gaxton found himself giving orders to Corvan ships when their commander was busy. Fleet Commanders HFY shared tactical data with Zephyrian vessels without being asked. For the first time in 30 years, both species were fighting for the same goal. The Nethys are retreating, Lieutenant Parker announced at exactly 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Admiral Mitchell watched as the surviving black ships turned and fled toward the edge of the system. More than half their fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The rest were running for their lives. Should we pursue them? Gaxton asked over the communication channel. No, Tony replied. Let them go. They'll spread the word that this part of the galaxy is protected. They won't be back anytime soon. The battle was over. The Nethys threat had been eliminated, and the 30-year war between the Zephyrian Empire and Corvan Federation had ended not with conquest, but with cooperation. Captain Eric Hayes looked at his chronometer and smiled. The operation had begun at 8 in the morning. Now it was 1 in the afternoon, 5 hours. The war that had lasted 30 years had been ended in 5 hours. All ships, stand down from combat alert, Admiral Mitchell announced. Congratulations to everyone, we just saved the galaxy. On Unity Station, the peace treaty was signed 3 days later. War Leader Gaxton and Fleet Commanders HFY put their names on a document that would change the galaxy forever. The Zephyrian Corvan Alliance, Gaxton read from the treaty. It has a nice sound. The mathematical projections for our combined civilizations are very positive, HFY agreed. We will be stronger together than we ever were apart. Captain Turner, who had started it all with his request for a ceasefire, watched the signing ceremony with pride. You know what the best part is? He said to Dr. Foster, What's that? In 100 years, their children will grow up thinking of each other as allies. They won't even remember that their parents were enemies. Outside Unity Station, the combined fleets of two former enemies patrolled the galaxy together. The Outer Spiral colonization project had already begun. New worlds were being explored and settled by mixed crews of Zephyrians and Corvans working side by side. The war was over. The galaxy was safe, and humanity had shown that sometimes the best way to win a fight is to help everyone else realize they're on the same side. History would remember the day that a 30-year war ended in 5 hours. But more importantly, it would remember the day that enemies became friends and the galaxy learned that cooperation was stronger than conflict. The age of endless war was over. The age of exploration and peace had begun.